Good morning. I'm going to call to order the Pierce County Council and Monday study session. Today is August 24th, 2026. The time is 11:01, and most of us are here, and I'm anticipating Councilmember Krueger arriving. Has anyone seen Councilmember Morrell? I think he's still out. Does that sound right? Oh, okay. Well, we'll say his name a couple times. Maybe he will appear, but at this time he is excused. And Councilmember Ayala is online, and Councilmember Krueger is also excused. I know she's somewhere. So we are, unless I have objections from any of my colleagues, we have a full agenda today, but we have a presentation from Pierce Transit that has several guests. I'd like to move that to the front of the meeting schedule to honor their time. Any objections to starting with the presentation? Seeing none, we will amend the agenda with starting with the Pierce Transit, and then we'll jump into our normal order of business. Do we have staff introducing this, or am I just pitching it to the guests that are here? They're experts. I've actually already seen their presentation when I was in Ruston doing a URA presentation. So we will turn this over to Pierce Transit. I don't know who's leading. Executive Director Griffiths. Thank you for being here.
This on? Yes.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you for having us today. I'm Mike Griffiths, and I'm the CEO of Pierce Transit. And with me today are Chris Schuler, our Chief Financial Officer, Tina Lee, the Interim Chief Planning Officer, and Kurt Colvis, our Government Relations Manager. In July, our board unanimously voted to send a ballot measure package to voters on the November 3rd, 2026 general election. If approved by voters, Pierce Transit would be able to serve more people, more places, more often for 0.3% sales tax change. This was built on years and years of engagement, data, and planning. It takes into account regional plans, municipal goals, and community input to ensure we are putting transit where it can have the greatest impact in the community. Now the package is in the hands of the voters for the general election, who for the first time in 14 years will have the opportunity to decide the future of local transit. I will now turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Chris Schuler, so he can provide background on the realities that have driven the need for this direction.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So largely due to inflation, Pierce Transit expenses are expected to exceed revenues as early as 2027. We currently do have a healthy reserve balance. However, our reserves are largely committed to capital projects and would also be used to cover an operating deficit after this year. So running at that level of service by 2032, reserves would projected to fall below our required minimums. Now, really what this slide is meant to do is to point out that reserves would be used to maintain that current level of service, and this is not sustainable. On the next slide, this shows that Pierce Transit's currently funded, shown on the far right, currently funded at half the rate of our peer agencies in Snohomish, Thurston, and Kitsap counties. And this is really a disparity of opportunity and mobility for Pierce County residents. And this rate has not changed since 2002, almost a quarter century ago. Now, sales tax makes up 80% of our funding. This is combined with grants, fares, and other things like advertising revenue. This is the primary revenue mechanism that the legislature has authorized for local transit. We do not collect car tabs, we do not collect vehicle fees, payroll tax, or property tax. But we're proud of what we've been able to provide for the community despite these funding constraints. This takes a deliberate effort to manage costs, streamline operations, and improve efficiencies. In the past 5 years, we've completed 133 projects focused on administrative and operational improvements. And the result of this work really does show. Based on the FTA, National Transit Database data on cost per passenger mile, we are the most efficient local transit agency in the Puget Sound region. Now, our community is growing, its needs are changing, and we're hitting the limit of how much can be accomplished doing more with less. And largely, again, due to inflation, expenses are expected to exceed revenue as soon as next year. So without this additional funding, Pierce Transit will continue to run the service level for as long as possible, but transit service would need to be reduced to match that available funding. So starting in 2027, to avoid a fiscal cliff, Pierce Transit would begin planning for additional cost-cutting measures that would prioritize maintaining services. And at the current level of funding, though, service level reductions would need to be implemented by 2031. On the next slide, this shows the past funding challenges. So starting in 2009, expenses similar to this year began outpacing revenue. Now this in part due to the Great Recession. And then 2011, a ballot measure failed and service was needed to be reduced. And between 2011 and 2012, a public transportation improvement conference was held, comprised of local elected officials who voted to adjust Pierce Transit's service area and the taxing district. Now, this resulted in several cities, specifically Bonnie Lake, Buckley, DuPont, Orting, Sumner, and portions of unincorporated Pierce County, including much of the Key Peninsula, to no longer pay into or receive Pierce Transit services. And then later in 2012, another ballot measure was defeated, and this time by just 704 votes. Now, it's been 14 years since Pierce Transit last asked voters to consider a ballot measure, but now I'll pass it back to Mike so he can discuss what we heard from the community that led to the conception of this package.
Our community has asked for transit that serves more people, more places, more often. Nobody I know of is asking for less service. And a transit system that connects work, school, and essential places like healthcare and grocery shopping. 89% of riders take trips that benefit the local economy, and studies show that $1 invested in transit generates $5 in economic return. Today, I want to focus on 3 issues. Pierce County is growing and growing quickly. Our local economy depends on how well people can access jobs and how reliably employers can access the workforce. Looking ahead, Pierce County is expected to add 250,000 new residents and 117,000 new jobs by 2044. As the region evolves, transportation will continue to shape how efficiently people can connect to opportunity. Without additional transit, most of that growth will rely on cars, adding congestion to already busy roads and making it harder for people to access jobs, schools, safe places for youth, medical appointments, and other essential services, especially during peak congestion. Even if you don't use transit, someone you rely on uses transit, whether that's your barber, your nurse, your mechanic, your grocery store clerk, all of those people that we found out were essential workers during the pandemic. This is why you often hear us say that even if you don't take public transit, you benefit from it. You benefit from less cars on the road, and more people are keeping our economy moving. Slide. We have a plan to serve more people, more places, more often. A plan that will improve transit for the 21,000 daily trips our riders take, and a plan to help make transit possible for those who can't use our current system because it doesn't accommodate their schedules. A plan for a 47% increase in service that spans across the 13 towns, cities, and unincorporated areas we serve. Please note, this does not expand Pierce Transit into new areas that we do not serve. As you're aware, that's a separate process determined by elected officials and voters in that area if they would like to pay for and receive transit service. We also provide runner microtransit service and operate the 12th largest rideshare program in the nation. But today I'm only going to focus on bus and paratransit service, as that's where the new funding would be directed. I'm now going to pass it over to our Chief Interim Planning Officer, Tina Lee, to tell you about the package.
Thank you. If approved by voters, it would add an additional 3 pennies per $10 spent on qualifying purchases within Pierce Transit service area. For example, a $20 sweater would cost an additional 6 pennies. A pair of $80 headphones would cost an additional 24 cents. and this would fund a 47% increase in service. Next slide. If approved by voters, we would add 4 new bus routes. A Port of Tacoma route would serve the new Maritime 253 High School and help workers get to jobs at the port. It would also improve access to Swan Creek Park, the Eastside Community Center, and the Pipeline Trail. The Central Tacoma route will connect Lakewood, travel along Tyler to Cheney Stadium and Allamore Hospital, then continue to 6th Avenue into downtown Tacoma, the Medical Mile, improving access to jobs, healthcare, and events. And the Northeast Tacoma route will connect riders to light rail stations in downtown Federal Way and Fife. We'll add a new weekday route serving Puyallup as Puyallup continues to grow, and this will also serve areas with new housing and support those who are aging in place. And we'll also adjust the Route 11 to connect to Ruston to allow year-round access to the waterfront, access to recreation, connecting employees to jobs, and connecting shoppers to businesses. Next slide. If approved by voters, we would add a seasonal waterfront trolley and special event service. We'd serve the Gig Harbor waterfront as well as the Tacoma waterfront with seasonal trolley service. This would allow us to maintain a flexible pool of funding to directly work with communities and partners each year to design service that meets the community's needs. Our special event service has historically carried significant ridership, including over 100,000 boarders our peak years during the Washington State Fair years, and more than 12,000 riders in a single day when we were able to provide access to the Freedom Fair. Imagine that, almost 12,000 cars trying to reach one destination in a single day. And special event service to Rainier Games or concerts at Dune Peninsula means that families don't have to spend time or money looking for parking. They can spend that time making memories. Next slide. If approved by voters, we would have 3 high-capacity transit corridors that serve Pacific Avenue, 19th and Bridgeport to Gravelly Lake Drive, and South Tacoma Way. This means buses would arrive every 15 minutes on weekdays and 20 minutes on weekends, and stops would also receive improvements. More than 140,000 people live within a 10-minute walk of these bus stops, and there are approximately 110,000 jobs within a half a mile of these routes. And put simply, for people who live and work near these routes and these corridors, transit becomes something you don't have to plan for. With buses arriving every few minutes, there's less need to check the schedule or worry about whether a shift will line up because the next bus is just a few minutes away. And high-capacity transit unlocks transit-oriented development and supports affordable housing in our region. Recently in Puyallup, near the Tacoma Community College, and in the Lincoln District, hundreds of affordable housing units have been built near our transit stops and our routes. Next slide. Buses running more often is our highest ranked request from riders. Under this plan, 86% of our current routes would run more often. 7 routes would run every 15 to 20 minutes, and most routes would run every 15 to 30 minutes on a weekday. Those 7 routes carry half of all of our bus trips, meaning they represent nearly 1 out of every 2 of our riders. They connect South Hill to Lakewood, Franklin Pierce High School, Tacoma Mall, and Lakewood Town Center. And this means no more hourly waits on a weekday. Nearly 1 in 4 Pierce County residents would live within a 10-minute walk of a bus route that operates every 15 to 20 minutes. It makes transit much more reliable and practical option for everyday travel. It means getting to your destination faster and less wait time. Next slide. These are a lot of buses and numbers on this slide, but I want to call out is that improved weekend improvements mean that people can actually get to work and to their destination and get home again on a weekend. Currently, the majority of our routes operate hourly on weekends. That means you have to wait an hour for a bus. Imagine that if you take that bus, you have to wait 45 minutes for a transfer. That means holding your groceries for 45 minutes while your arms get tired. And today, 15 routes operate hourly on Saturday. With this plan, 23 routes will operate 30 minutes or faster. Currently, 22 routes operate hourly on a Sunday. With this plan, that would move to 8. This is about service, but really it's about getting to your nephew's baseball game or getting to that baby shower or an event on a weekend. Next slide. With this plan, 23 routes, more than 80% of our service will run longer and later hours. Most routes will start between 5 and 6 a.m. and end at about 10 p.m. or later. And this represents a significant improvement for evening service, a longstanding request from our riders. We hear from our riders that services do not operate late enough for them to use the bus. They can't get home after work, evening classes, or other commitments. These changes make transit a more realistic option for people who currently cannot rely on it for their full day. Students attending an evening class, workers at a late night shift, at restaurant or retail, and people traveling home from events. Next slide. Can anyone guess how much the average Uber ride is from downtown Tacoma to SeaTac? I'll give you the answer on this one. It's $84 on average. The same trip on public transportation is $3 to $6. We built this plan to align with other regional plans, including transit hubs, connections, and light rail stations. And we plan for our routes to align better with future regional light rail when Sound Transit's Tacoma Dome Link extension project comes on board. 8 routes will connect to light rail stations in South Federal Way, Fife, Portland Avenue, and at the Tacoma Dome Station. This means easier transfers and less time stuck in traffic on I-5. Next slide. People with disabilities are the fastest growing group in our community, making accessible, reliable transits more important than ever. All of our buses are accessible, and last year we had over 37,000 wheelchair boardings. And shuttles are paratransit service for riders who live within 3/4 of a mile of a bus route and are unable to take that bus due to a disability. Paratransit operates at the same time and schedule as bus routes, along about 3/4 of a mile around that route. And anytime we make changes to that bus route, we consider changes to paratransit as it impacts their schedules as well. Under this plan, we'll be able to serve more people with disabilities, especially around the port, Northeast Tacoma, and in Puyallup. And we hear how essential shuttle is from our paratransit riders. Some of the most visited locations for our shuttle service are kidney dialysis treatments, grocery stores, community centers with programming for adults with cognitive and physical disabilities. An extended paratransit means people have access to safe, reliable, and affordable transit that meets their needs. Next slide. And finally, under this plan, we make buses and paratransit fare-free for seniors age 65 and older, joining youth who already ride free. We continue to offer our Orca lift and reduced options for people with low income and disabilities. Next slide. We'd implement this plan over a 5-year period. We'd begin with extended weekend service improvements because we can implement that with our existing buses. For reference, it takes 2 years to get a bus and put that into service once we place that order. So as soon as we begin collecting a new rate in April, we'd begin ordering buses and hiring transit operators and mechanics. Then we would implement weekday service improvements. New routes would start toward the end of the timeline following permitting and design. And every step of the way, we would work with the community to ensure that new routes and implementation align with the community's needs and vision. And with that, I will pass it back to CEO Griffiths.
So this is about building a transit system that works for our region. Really, it's about people also. Connecting employers to a workplace, connecting students to school, connecting shoppers to small businesses, connecting youth, seniors, and people with disabilities to mobility, and connecting families to special events where memories are made. Proposition 1 is about connecting our region to opportunity. And now I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you. So just going to remind my colleagues that we need to be very intentional about the questions that we ask so that we are not supporting or opposing. It's learning. And so just being very cognizant of how you ask questions and that they will be available. If you have questions that you think walk the line or maybe cross the line, you could ask them offline. So I'm going to go to the vice chair. Ms. Long, was that a good enough reminder for you? Okay. Go to the vice chair.
Okay, thank you. First question is on the ballot. Is the whole county voting on this, or is it just people who are in the transit district?
It's people that are in the Pierce County service area.
Okay, so
it's 70% of the county.
but they're going to be voting on an expansion. So the people that may get the expansion can't vote on this?
where we're expanding transit, those people are already in our transit district.
Oh, they are. Okay, gotcha. All right. You showed a graph on, like, if you don't do this, you're going to be like in a deficit, or you're going to be like really in some financial issue due to inflation. How can you promise all this expansion if, you know, if you have the 0.3%, is that just going to keep you at status quo, or is 0.1 of 1% would keep you at status quo? 0.2 or 0.3 is going to get the expansion done?
So we've looked at the 1%, 1 cent, 2 cent thing, and that just pushes the timeline out a little bit for when you hit a fiscal cliff. Down in Portland, TriMet just laid off 100 people because they had to cut back their service. And I think a lot of transit agencies are hitting a fiscal cliff. We've been trying to manage that situation already to make sure that we can continue to provide service. Pierce Transit carries no debt, and we don't run deficits. And so that's one of the things that we're pretty proud of. Our overhead is also just 11% of the total. Asking for this increase and we know it's affordability right now, is a 50% increase in our tax rate, but it's 47% increase in the services that we're going to provide. We aren't adding or bloating overhead. We're putting service on the street where it matters. And I think that this county has never really experienced great transit. When you get fast, reliable transit, people use it. And already there's congestion out there. Our analysis shows when we look at the roads going out with our traffic pattern analysis, that there's going to be gridlock by 2030 in this county unless something happens. And building more roads isn't going to solve the problem because there's really not a lot of room to build anymore in those high capacity corridors. So that's another reason we're bringing this package forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Additional questions? Councilmember Krueger?
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering, does this tax include, or this funding, what you currently have and are looking to get, is that what pays for repairing the transit stops?
Yes.
That comes out of that as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, our total funding mechanism is sales tax, except for grants that we might give for, like the Spanaway Transit Center. We had federal money and state money put into that along with our local match. But mostly it's sales tax that we have. That's our only funding mechanism.
And is it through grants that are used for the reduced funding for different entities? Or does that come from the tax as well?
No, our local share comes from the sales tax that we collect. Is that the
Right,
question?
but there are different programs that allow for different payment plans, I guess I want to say in a generic way. And are those reductions made up for through the taxes that are received? Like if somebody rides free, it's not free. So the differences for that service are made up through the tax that is collected or through grants?
Yeah, it's through
Or both.
taxes collected.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the presentation, appreciate the show of force on bringing everyone together on this. My district, hardly anybody, because I'm pretty much outside of the transit area. On your fares free for seniors, how did you come to that decision on picking that group versus low income versus other groups out there? Why seniors?
Yeah, we really have a robust low-income service right now with Orca Lift and the money that we use for 501c3. They get tickets from us already to serve their people. And so with the aging population in Pierce County, we looked at it and thought, these are people that could use when they're on fixed incomes, could use a break for riding the bus.
Okay. And obviously, as one of the previous speakers said, nothing is free. I mean, the costs still have to be paid for, whether the bus shows up if there's a senior there or not. You still got to pay for those costs. The other thing that I'm kind of looking at, do you get any funding from Climate Commitment Act?
Yes, we do.
And how does that fit into your,
So the Commitment Act funding went for our program for children or youth ride free, the 18 and under. That's where we got the funding to provide that service from the state. We're a little concerned about that because the Climate Commitment Act dollars continue to go down, but we've made a commitment that we'll continue to serve 18 and under free. Last year, we had over 1 million rides with 18 and under on our service, and it continues to grow.
okay. And then obviously with the increase, you have to target the sales tax.
That's the only mechanism we have from the state. We're mandated that we can go up to a 0.09%, and that we'd have to get legislative authority to go anywhere past that.
Right, and as you already know, the sales tax is a very regressive tax, especially to lower income folks.
Correct.
So that's a challenge. And then with the stacking that has happened recently with sales tax, I think Tacoma is going to lead the highest sales tax. What is City of Tacoma sales tax going to be if this passes?
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I think it goes above 11%.
Is it going to be close to 11%?
I think it's around 11%.
Yeah, which is pretty high. The one route that you have, you don't have any roads identified in your map. The extension of the one road into, I guess, South Hill, is that,
The Shaw Road.
what road is that?
Shaw Road out there. Shaw Road.
Shaw Road, okay. But you still don't have a route that takes to unincorporated's largest employer, which is Frederickson, has the most jobs in unincorporated Pierce County. And that is because they're out of the,
Frederickson was taken out of the service area in the PTIC, or Public Transportation Improvement Conference, by the elected officials that were holding that conference in 2012.
okay. and
So
that's-
they're not in our service area.
Okay, and so the only way to get transit to one of our high employment centers is if they decide to go the route to re-enter
Yes.
the transit.
I think it's up to the county council to bring it back in, and then the voters have to approve it.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back to Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That kind of spurred some thoughts, because it's really not my district either, except for the Frederickson Arena. And am I correct that, like, an employer there is not allowed to make a service of their own to go back and forth from maybe Meridian to Mountain Highway?
Oh, no, if they want to provide their own shuttle service, an employer could do that. They could also hire Pierce Transit to try and do it. It would just have to go out for a bid against us and other transit or, bus providers.
Okay, I thought there was something where some folks were trying to have some kind of a system to set up, but they weren't allowed to have that.
No,
do that.
they definitely can put in their own private transportation system.
Okay. And it seems that a lot of the need I have seen or heard of is, the one trips, not necessarily requiring a whole bus, like the Borders Beyond. Is that still going? Beyond the
Yes.
Borders program?
Yeah, Beyond the Borders is still going.
Expanding on that. And I believe there was a program several years ago where there was a grant given and they were using Ubers. And apparently that didn't work out well, but it just seems there's more people that, the timings, even though it might run more often, but the timings just weren't conducive to being able to get somewhere and back and be able to do their shopping or whatever they needed to do. Is there going to be more expansion on some of that specialized transit help?
Yeah, we have a service called the Runner Service, which is you can call up for a ride in certain zones, and we just doubled that service with a private provider because ridership has increased about 50% on that service. And so we were having seat unavailability, and so we increased the service to provide those rides.
Yeah, I haven't heard much on that, but what I did hear from someone, it just, even that still wasn't conducive to the needs for the rides, so.
Yeah, so industry-wide, they look for 90% seat availability, and we're about 92% when we made that change. So 8% of the time, there's not going to be a seat available for somebody.
Okay. And I'm wondering, there's a lot of things here that I would think would have been implemented prior, and so why now? I mean, it just seems these ideas could have worked before or tried over past years, and then now we're getting all this package that seems some of it should have already been done.
Yeah, so I've been at the agency for 10 years, and for the last 7 years, the talk of ballot measure was brought up before our board, and the board said now's not a good time. And so this year they said, we think it's time, especially when they looked at the fiscal cliff that we were facing down the road, and also with the connections that's going to be required for light rail when it gets here, so that people can actually travel seamlessly throughout the county.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the questions. Well, I appreciate the team being here. I'm not seeing any other questions come up, and we know how to get a hold of you if we have additional questions. I do see one of the board members has joined us. Board Member Hines, do you have any comments before? I don't know exactly if you want to do a wrap up.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Hitchens. Thank you. I think I was going to be the opening act, but I'm the closing act today for you all. First of all, thank you. I've never been in your gorgeous new facility. This is amazing. So thank you for having us here. I'm John Hines. I'm one of the Tacoma City Council members, but more importantly today, I am one of the Pierce Transit Commissioners. And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come in here and share a little about what we're hoping to accomplish with the ballot initiative that's going to be on the ballot here in November. And for me, and the thing I want to just make sure we close on it are kind of three things. So number one, you all have been engaged in a lot of work that I have been engaged in too, which is we're looking at how we're designing the future of our county and city. Where do we want people to live? Where do we want people to work? How are we going to make different housing choices than we've made in the past? And when we think about that conversation, as I'm talking to my residents, a lot of them come up again and again, like, hey, John, I get it, right? Maybe I might not have a car, or maybe my kids not have a car, but I don't have a transit system I can live on. I don't have one that I can get to work or doctor's appointments or to where I need to go. It doesn't come frequently enough. It doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go late enough. What are we going to do here? And so as we're thinking about those conversations across the county, this is meant to really help step into that gap. The second thing is post-COVID, we're seeing a real change in how people get around our community. So before, our whole goal was, let's build a bus system that takes people and builds a conveyor belt from here to Seattle. Let's take people from here and get them to where jobs are in Seattle and get them home as quickly as possible. But people are commuting less and less into work into Seattle. And so we need a system that not only just builds that conveyor belt, but one that circulates people through our community, helps people go from where they live to maybe where they work, to the grocery store, to the library, to the park. We need a system that can do that, and this ballot initiative is going to help us get closer to that. And then the third thing, just to leave you all with, and I think Councilmember Morrell brought this up, as the Councilmember City of Tacoma, this passes, we're looking at 10.8% sales tax in the City of Tacoma. So we're at 10.5. This would put us at 10.8. But what's more important to me, and we said this at our board meeting, is this is an opportunity for the voters to make that choice, whether that's what they want to pay for or not. This is not us saying we're going to raise taxes to pay for services we think people want. This is an opportunity for us to go out to the voters and say, here's what we think we can give you for this increase. Are you willing to pay for it or not? And I think that's really valuable and gives us an opportunity to really go out and make that pitch to the public about why we think that's important. why we think youth ride free is important, why we think seniors being able to ride free is important, and why we think buses that come earlier, run later, and come more often is something critical that we need here in Pierce County. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for letting me come in and have a quick closing statement. Chair Hitchin.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here and bringing the whole team. And I know that we've got more details in our notebook or in our packet. Are you teasing me, or do you have something, Councilmember? You're just teasing. Okay. Any other comments from any of the Pierce Transit guests before I punted to the closer because he was right here, so I might have messed with the flow. Okay. Well, thank you all. Appreciate it. And yes, we are enjoying our new space as we think we have the sound system dialed in. Took a couple months. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Okay. So we are going to go back to the beginning of our agenda. And so we're going to be looking at our council agenda for tomorrow, August 25th. Ms. Long is back. Mr. Taylor is out visiting grandbabies and all the fun things and taking some much deserved time off. So Ms. Long, we're going to pitch it to you.
So thank you. This is tomorrow's council meeting agenda. It is amended. We'll start with your consent agenda. You have a few items for introduction and scheduling. Under ordinances, we have a few. The first is O 2026-554. This is amending the Pierce County Capital Facilities Plan to include the jail replacement preliminary design project and amend the O2 jail renovation study and schematic design project. This is for referral to CDEC, and you'll be setting the final on this one for September 29th. Next, you have O 2026-555, and this is authorizing the approval of applications for open space classification. There are 15 applications in this one proposal, and they are all in unincorporated Pierce County. You'll be setting the final on this for September 29th as well. Next, you have O 2026-556. And this is adopting development moratoria pursuant to statute as an extension of the previously adopted development moratorium in O 2026-505, prohibiting the siting, expansion, or establishment of certain detention centers and facilities involving involuntary confinement, adopting a work plan, and setting a date for a public hearing. This is for referral to CDEC, and you'll be setting the final on this for September 8th. Moving to final action items on your consent, you have a few resolutions. First is R 2026-185. This is confirming the appointment of 2 new members to the Pierce County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. R 2026-186 is confirming the appointment of 1 new member to the Pierce County Planning Commission. R 2026-187 is confirming the appointment of 1 new member to the Transportation Advisory Commission. R 2026-188 is confirming the reappointment of 1 existing member to the Pierce County Housing Authority. And finally, you have R 2026-190. This is confirming the reappointment of 1 existing member to the Pierce County Veterans Advisory Board. Under D, you have 5 grant applications. First up is County Road Administration Board Rural Arterial Program. Actually, the first 2 are this same grant. The first is Hearts Lake Road at Horn Creek. The second one is Key Peninsula Highway Northwest Overlay. Number 3 is World Wildlife Fund. This is a National Household Wasted Food Prevention Project grant. Number 4 is U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Healthy Homes Production. And then last, you have U.S. Department of Education, Early Childhood Education, Gardening, and Nutrition Project. And I believe Mr. Boki will speak in more detail about these later during this meeting. We will move now to Section 7. There are no proclamations tomorrow, so we'll jump right to Section 8 resolutions, and you do have 1 item here. It's R 2026-179, and this is initiating an appointment process to fill vacancies on the Town Council for the town of South Prairie. And I will note that there is 1 amendment to this proposal, and I can speak to that after we go through all this if you'd like. This received a due pass at Rules and Operations on August 17th. Under Section 9 ordinances, you do have a handful of items here. First step is O 2026-553. This is reauthorizing the Spanaway Lake Management District Number 1, publishing the proposed role of rates and charges, and setting forth certain administrative and noticing requirements, and establishing a hearing committee and appeal process. This received a due pass at rules on August 17th. Number 2 is O 2026-545. This is amending Chapter 4.36 of the Code, Claims and Actions by and against the county. This received a due pass at rules on August 3rd. Number 3 through, let's see, the next 5 proposals are all collective bargaining agreements. You have O 2026-547, 548, 549, 550, and 551. So the first is with the Corrections and Detention Center Non-Uniformed Group, Local 3752CN. The next, and all of these received due pass recommendations at rules on August 10th, and they are for final. The second of these is with the Sheriff's Independent Guild, Local 1889 Community Service Officers. The third is with the Juvenile Court Unit, Local 120J. The next one is with the Local 120 PAO. And the last is Local 120 General Unit. And those are your agenda items for tomorrow's regular council meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding tomorrow's council agenda? Not seeing any. You said we do have one amendment, if I remember correctly. It's changing a qualification.
This is on the proposal council vacancies, filling these vacancies. The amendment is simply to clarify the qualification requirements. So it currently lists the state requirements, which is a residency requirement of 30 days prior to appointment or election. South Prairie has a specific municipal code provision that requires a person to be a registered voter of the town at the time of filing and be a resident of the town for a period of at least 1 year. So it'll amend the 30 days to the 1 year to be consistent with South Prairie's municipal code.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there questions on that one? Okay, not seeing any, so we will move to grants. Mr. Boki.
Thank you, Chair Hitchin. So the first grant, in fact, the first 2 grants are the Rural Arterial Program County Road Administration Board, commonly known as the CRAB Board. It is for Harts Lake Road at Horn Creek, and it's a bridge, fixing up a bridge there. And the requested amount of the grant is $1,966,000. It is a 3-year grant. The match is $196,600. That'll come out of the county road fund. This project is in the TIP. It's CRP 5916. And Ms. Becca Osterhaus from our Planning and Public Works Department is here to answer your questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this particular one? Or Becca, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing more to add. Thank you.
Okay. Not Councilmember Krueger. I see you trying to push a button. There we go.
Yeah, I should remember where Horn Creek is, but I'm trying to discern, how far is this from Brighton Creek and where they were doing the new culvert?
I don't have that off the top of my head,
Okay.
but I can look that up.
I can look
Apologies.
it up too. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
On the map, I see Brighton Creek.
Yeah, this is it's a bridge, but
Eleanor.
on Google Earth, when you're on the road, it doesn't really look like a bridge. But there must be a culvert underneath there, and so it's.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, Becca Osterhaus with PPW, the existing structure is a culvert that is being replaced with a bridge.
Yeah.
So it is not very visible from the surface.
And so the project goal is to what I call daylight, like actually kind of create.
And
Councilmember Coover.
that was a bridge in place of a culvert? Is that what I heard?
The improvement will be a 60-foot span bridge to replace an existing culvert.
Oh. For 1 point what million?
The request amount is at 1.9 million, but we have an existing grant in place, a federal grant of 7.6 million that's funding a large portion of this project. And so we're able to ask CRAB through this RAP program to provide the local match.
And what will a bridge do that a properly sized culvert wouldn't do?
A properly sized culvert would be able to provide the fish passage and the flow requirements that's lacking here. I'm not privy to all of the design as to where the differentiation became from what could be a properly sized culvert to make it a bridge. But through the design process, that was determined to be the best improvement at this location.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions, so we'll move on to the second grant.
Thank you, Chair Hitchin. The next is a Rural Arterial Program, and it is a Key Peninsula Highway Northwest overlay. So this is part of the existing 3R program. The amount of the grant request is $1,390,680. The match is $154,520. And this covers Key Peninsula Highway from 64th Street Northwest to 92nd Street Northwest. So it's quite a length. And Ms. Osterhaus is on the line to answer your questions.
Okay, are there questions on this particular grant? Not seeing any, anything to add from department staff?
Thank you, Ad. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go on to grant number 3, which is from the World Wildlife Fund.
Yes, it's a National Household Wasted Food Prevention Project from the World Wildlife Fund, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency is also involved in this. It will support targeted, localized behavior change efforts to prevent wasted food in households. Grant-funded projects will serve one or both target audience, parents of children under 18 and young adults ages 18 to 35. These grants aim to help American households save money and prevent wasted food by changing the everyday habits that lead to food being thrown away. So it is the requested amount of the grant is $750,000. It's a 2-year grant from 27 and 2028. There is no match required. And this, I'm looking, I was told Kaylee Aguiar would be here, but we do have somebody on the line from our Office of Resilience and Climate Action.
Okay. I think Councilmember Cooper, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm interested in, this is the first I've seen World Wildlife Fund have a grant here. Is there something that happened, or are they going to be providing more grants kind of, for these kinds of purposes? I'm just curious how World Wildlife Fund, one of the largest landholders in the world, is doing a grant here for food waste to change behavior.
In the research that I looked at, I don't know that. Quick answer: these are pass-through funds from the Environmental Protection Agency, so it's the project has been funded wholly or in part by the United States Environmental Protection Agency under an assistance agreement with the World Wildlife Fund.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As my colleague said, I think I've never seen a grant like this before. Says it's funded from the EPA, but the wording of this is very intriguing. Behavioral change efforts. And then is this grant really scaling up City of Tacoma? Successful Community Ambassador Program? So what does it do for unincorporated Pierce County, I guess is why I asked that. Then also, if someone can explain to me, this program supports the normalization and diffusion of the desired behavior change within a target population. What does that mean? What does diffusion mean in that paragraph? So if you could get someone.
Well, I think they're on the line.
Okay,
So,
if they're on the line, just reading this is really interesting. So just curious. Thank you.
Tiffany's.
I'm Callie Aguilera. I'm the grant coordinator helping ORCA and solid waste teams apply in collaboration with City of Tacoma on the grant. I also have Karen Holtgren should be on the call as well. She's a solid waste analyst, also working on the project, but I don't know if she got audio permissions. But yeah, it's a very unique application, and to kind of help with the confusion about what World Wildlife Fund is doing, they also have partnership with Ad Council and the U.S. Composting Council and the Institute of Local Self-Reliance, and then there's pass-through funds with EPA. So it's a big coordinated effort to kind of fund these evidence-based actions to save. It's a national competitive grant, so it's to their goal is to save American households money and prevent wasted food by reducing food waste across the nation.
Hi,
Okay.
and this is Karen Holgren with Pierce County Solid Waste. To answer your question about what does this get us in unincorporated Pierce County, so this is a joint grant application with Pierce County and the City of Tacoma Environmental Services, and we would be targeting audiences. There would be 4 communities within unincorporated Pierce County. For this grant, we actually had to drill down into zip codes, like very specific zip codes. So one of those is in the Key Peninsula. Another area is in East Pierce, the White River area. There'd be some on Puyallup tribal land, and then the 4th in Parkland Spanaway. So, and we have, again, I wasn't hugely involved in developing this, but I am familiar with it somewhat. And yeah, there's very specific zip codes where we would be working within unincorporated Pierce County.
Okay, follow-up question to that. Thank you for the explanation. Are you collecting any data that will say that the outcomes are measurable on an effort like
We would
this?
have to. Correct. Yeah. So again, this is right now the grant application and the proposal, but absolutely we would be collecting data. So we would have kind of before interventions with these groups of people, and then afterward measurements. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
We're going to go back to Councilmember Kruger, so don't go away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems to me that quite often when some grants come up, there's sometimes pushback because we don't have the staff to work the program. And it seems to me that the team you're on, the resilience team, is very busy. And how can there be staff to do this program?
So there is not staff. I am actually not. So Callie is on the resilience team. I am on solid waste. There are 7 of us for the entire county, and we do not have enough staff to do this, which is why if you look as part of this application, it would be bringing on, I think it's a half FTE for a 2-year period to run this work. So it's building on work that we are currently doing, but you are correct. We do not have solid waste does not have staff to implement this.
And then maybe you can't answer this, but in the data that would be taking, are we looking at data that is output or outcomes?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I do you know if this is being done in partnership at all with Lakewood as well?
They aren't part of the grant application.
And I don't think they are in one of the target areas.
Okay,
Yeah,
Tiffany
it's focused
Spear
on.
from Lakewood keeps raising her hand, so I just didn't
Oh,
know if
gotcha.
she was maybe part of it, but I know she does. She's involved in a couple different groups, so
Gotcha.
just curious. My only question is, we currently have some legal action against the federal government when it comes to grants, and I don't know if this department is under our current, I'm going to call them protections, because I don't know that we've done the EPA or the World Wildlife Fund. So I didn't know if anybody had checked that.
I don't believe it is currently, although I do know that if we were to, again, this is a very competitive national grant process. If we were to be awarded that, we would definitely have to look at that again to see if we could accept the funds.
Okay. Well, conveniently, we have a meeting here with Miss Luna, and she's in the room, so I will just ask her directly, and we can chat. So thank you. One more question from Councilmember Kruger.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry. What you were saying, it made me think, is this tied into Blue Zones as well for that organization at all? Okay.
Right now, not currently, no.
And
Again, and a lot of this is the grant proposal. We are proposing to do something that City of Tacoma, like essentially taking the City of Tacoma model and spreading it out beyond the boundaries of City of Tacoma, working in jointly with them. But it has not happened in areas of Pierce County yet.
And with grant writing being a pretty intense application, wouldn't it be more prudent to find out if we're eligible before making that effort to do that application, or just because Tacoma's doing it, that's not our problem?
Well, I don't, in terms of the federal grant requirements, that is not my area of expertise. I would have to pass it along to somebody else.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we got 2 more grants. Mr. Boki, we're going to go back to you.
Next one is from our Human Services Department, minor home repair. It's a 4-year grant, Healthy Homes Production, from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Healthy Homes Initiative aims to reduce housing-related health and safety hazards through a comprehensive approach. And it talks about identifying and remediating housing-related health and safety hazards in privately owned, low-income, rental and or owner-occupied housing, especially in units and or buildings where families with children, older adults, 62 years and older, or families with persons with disabilities reside, and maximizing both of the number of vulnerable residents protected from housing-related environmental health and safety hazards and the number of housing units where these hazards are controlled. It is a $3.5 million grant over 42 months, and there is a 10% match amount, and that will come from federal CDBG designated for the minor home repair program. And I believe Ms. Trish Crocker is on the line to answer your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Crocker, anything to add before we see if there are questions? We are not hearing you, but I do see your mouth moving, so maybe check that the right microphone is selected, because it looks like you do have something to say. We're still not hearing you. Looks like you're unmuted too.
How about now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was having technical difficulties earlier and had to take my headphone off and something. I just wanted to say that all of the forms, I checked them as the federal review, because this is federal funding. I checked all of them, and there is nothing that would necessarily preclude us. Obviously, the contract, if we are awarded this, would be reviewed by the deputy prosecuting attorney and the executive legal counsel and everyone to ensure that we weren't putting ourselves at risk.
Okay, perfect.
And we intend to serve 150 housing units with these funds over the 3.5 years, benefiting at least 250 individuals.
Wonderful. Other questions or comments? That brought a couple. We'll go to Councilmember Kruger.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't quite hear the end of your sentence. So this 3.5 million is for 150 homes?
150 housing units, yes. So those they will be predominantly homeowners, so likely houses, yes.
150.
150.
Yeah,
Yes.
not 150,000.
Okay, it's like,
Oh, sorry.
it wasn't quite sure what I was hearing. And so 150 homes for 3.5 million to go through for hazards that might be there in the
Yes.
home.
Yes, so there's 8 principles. It's keeping it dry, keeping it clean, keeping it safe, keeping it well ventilated. So it's things like mold, movement, slip hazards, other kinds of hazards for adults, things that would cause breathing for adult, seniors, people with disabilities, and children, lead hazard, those things that are beyond our normal minor home repair program. It expands the capabilities of our minor home repair program.
Was there a targeted area or zip code for this?
We're intending to serve, to have this available for all of Pierce County except for the cities of Tacoma and Lakewood, because we're using the CDBG funds. We can't use them in those 2 cities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we will go to Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question, have you applied for a grant of this nature before?
We have started the application for this prior for something similar, the lead hazard control. We have not submitted it since I've been here for anything like this because when we were looking at it, the match had not been identified in time for our last attempt that we put forward in February that was withdrawn.
Okay. I was just curious to see how you would do this on low-income rental units versus privately owned or owner-occupied housing.
We're going to be prioritizing homeowner occupied housing because we have to put a lien on all of the properties, regardless if they're homeowner or renter occupied, because this is a higher cap that we would be doing it. And so we will be prioritizing the homeowners because that becomes a little more onerous for the rental properties.
Okay. I'm just kind of curious to see how many rentals will allow you to put a lien on their property. I could see a homeowner, but I don't know about whether I would want a lien on my property or not. So anyway, okay, thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions, so we have one more grant. Mr. Boki.
Thank you, Chair Hitchen. The next is Early Childhood Education Gardening and Nutrition Project from the United States Department of Education. It is in our Community Action Division ECAP Early Child Education Project, Gardening and Nutrition Program for Early Childhood Education to improve early childhood school readiness and education outcomes. It's a $525,000 grant over 3 years. And I believe there is no match required. And I don't have anybody on the line who matches. I'm looking for an individual, and I don't see her name.
I am able to talk about
So
this.
Trish can talk about it. Thank you for saving me there.
Okay, then we do have a question, so we'll go to Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious. I see this as ECAP, but shouldn't this be like in the basic education of what they do in ECAP rather than?
So this grant is to pay for the installation of gardens and the maintenance of those gardens at 4 of our 7 sites, plus purchasing some gardening specific curriculum for all 7 ECAP sites. This is actually a request that we initially put forward in 2024 with Senator Murray's office. And it was chosen by the senator, put forward, but wasn't able to be paid in there. This specific application was initially put forward in 2025 to the senator and made it through. We were awarded it in February of this year. And then this application is through the Department of Education, which is the agency that will oversee these funds.
Thank you for that information. I guess I find it's to purchase curriculum. There's not early learning curriculum already available that like maybe the extension or Master Gardeners has or something that would suffice that we wouldn't have to purchase?
That's a small portion of this of this grant. The largest part is the installation of the gardens and the maintenance of the gardens so that the children have the hands-on experience. There'll also be some field trips to local farms that we're planning. We're planning on having one in the fall and one in the spring for all 7 sites. So it's an inclusive curriculum, but the majority of this is for the actual installation of the gardens part. It's the startup of this program.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any additional questions on the grants? They'll be on the consent agenda. I do want to follow up on the World Wildlife Fund one, but we'll leave it on consent as of right now. But I think that's a significant question, so we'll just chat. Okay, so we still have committee agendas to go. So Ms. Long, we'll go to you.
All right. Thank you. So at 1:30 this afternoon, you have a Public Safety Committee meeting. There is one discussion item and one proposal. The discussion item is entitled Handle with Care Programming, and you'll be hearing from Northwest Educational Services District 189 and also Kitsap Strong. The proposal is O 2026-534S, and this is amending Chapter 9.57 of the code entitled Endangerment with a Controlled Substance regarding the applicability and penalty for violations and requesting the prosecuting attorney's office to report on case statistics. If you recall, this was referred back to committee at the August 4th council meeting. There is no final council action date scheduled at this time, so once it comes out of committee, then it'll have to go back on a consent agenda and get rescheduled for a final hearing. So a little bit more of a delay there.
Okay.
But that would be the process. On Tuesday, tomorrow, August 25th, beginning at 9:30, of an Economic Infrastructure Development Committee meeting. There is one proposal and you have one presentation. The proposals are 2026-189, and this is confirming Ashton Allison as the Director of the Economic Development Department. This has a September 1st council final hearing date. And the discussion item is the Pierce County Economic Development Agencies Forum, and you'll be hearing from the Pierce County Economic Development Board and the Port of Tacoma representatives. At noon is your regular study session. In addition to your usual agenda items, you do have a council intern presentation with Jacob from our office, and also a unified regional approach update with Mary Connolly. At 3 p.m. is your regular council meeting. On Wednesday, the 26th, beginning at 10:30, is a performance audit committee, and you have 2 discussion items on that agenda. The first is the fund visualization for the behavioral health funding map. And that will be with Joe Eisenman from council staff, performance audit. And the next is a status report on the evaluation of the behavioral health tax, and that will be with Bill Vetter from our office. And those are the items for the remainder of this week.
Thank you. Are there any questions on committee agendas? Not seeing any. And Ms. Long, do you have anything for administration?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then we are formally at other business. We already took care of the large chunk of other business with the presentation from Pierce Transit. So the only other item is an executive session. Ms. Long, I'm going to let you do your thing.
Thank you. So this is an executive session authorized by RCW 4230-110-1I. The purpose today is to discuss with legal counsel matters of pending or potential litigation to which the county is or may become a party when public knowledge of the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the county. The time estimate for today is about 15-20 minutes.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, if you'll state the time at which we'll return to an open session so the public knows. And for the record, there are no action items following executive session, just the adjournment.
Okay. So I'm going to say we'll come back at 12:25, which gives us a little over 15 minutes if I'm just going to say it. 12:25, we are going to move into executive session. We'll be back at 12:25. Thank you. Good afternoon. It is 12:26 and we are going to extend to 12:36. So we are adding 10 more minutes. Thank you very much. We're back in executive session. Good afternoon. We are back from executive session. The time is 12:36, and seeing no further business for the council in study session, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.